crew is training to go in below radar.
Reckon we're about on time and track. Airfield coming up. Quarry IP in about 30 secs. Should be dead ahead on the facing hill. It's backed by woods.
Can't see it yet.
10 seconds to IP. Should have it ahead.
Got it. On the right. Bloody awful IP. Turning port.
Roger. Stop watch running. IP put us left of track. Can you reduce the turn a bit?
Will do.
Lucky Viz. Good. I've got the railway. And there's the bend. Reckon we're a bit slow. 420 knots.
Sorry, yeah. What's rule out heading again?
081. Can you make it 440 knots?
Roger.
Two minutes. We are a bit behind. But we should have seen road coming from the left. Where is it?
Just coming up.
Have it. Estimate 15 seconds late. Make it 460. Good. Good. Piece of old dawdle. Here's our road to follow. It's the one we followed to pull-up point. Okay?
Fine. About a minute to go in second line of pylons. Check.
Roger. Damn good run, isn't it? Should see Foxhole Road crossing in a moment. Late, should have been just over 3 minutes. But we're catching up.
There it is.
10 seconds behind, but closing. Hold 460. Estimate 35 seconds to pull up. Second pylon's coming up.
Okay, pulling.
There's the road. Follow it to rail over road bridge target. Where is it? Where's the target? Where's the bloody bridge?
Bad show.
But poor Viz. Oh well, we got the first two targets. That third one though, they must have removed the bridge.
Wasn't there.
We'll get it next time.
But is that the point? There might not be a next time. Where did the comfort crew go wrong? In several places. So let's go back to basic principles.
Oh, Jim, you right? Yes? Come on, we're going to plan our first low level.
Oh, yeah. Great.
Now, the first thing to remember, Jim, is that low level navigation is very different to high level. Because of this, we use different charts. Now, here's a typical high level topo. Now, at height, when everything appears in plan view and no individual items stand out, this is fine. But think about this. As you get lower, the plan effect of high level gradually disappears. The whole aspect of the terrain changes. Individual features suddenly begin to stand out. Nav aid signals get weaker until they become useless at low level. Contours take shape, valleys show up. So now we learn a basic lesson in 3 important parts. Features with vertical development stand out clearly, but flat features like this disused airfield are much more difficult to pick out, despite being clearly marked on the map. Features which are unique, like this house, show up clearly. But you try and pick a bridge out of this lot. A coastline illustrates how important contrast can be in selecting features. Contrast here between land and water. And look how this white lighthouse contrasts with its surroundings. But beware of losing an individual feature because it doesn't contrast with its surroundings. But it's not possible to pick out the vertical, unique, individual contrasting features on the 500,000 topo. Because of this, we use a different map for low level, such as this 250,000. Now, not only does everything happen differently at low level, it happens faster. When you're at height, the ground appears to pass under the aircraft very slowly, so there appears to be plenty of time to look out and establish a position.
Yeah.
Down low, it's a different world. It's fast, it's enclosed. You can see maybe only a few hundred yards either side. That station, it's gone, it's past. It's too late to check which one it was. You have got to know what you're looking for. So, Jim, 3 basic principles. To know what you're looking for means accurate and detailed planning beforehand. But that's no use without accurate flying. And these 2 are useless unless you are thinking ahead of where you are. So think ahead, think ahead, think ahead, and keep thinking ahead of the aircraft. Remember and practice these 3 principles, and you won't go very far wrong. Right, that's the general picture. Now let's look at what we're going to do. We're going from Finningley over to Valley, high level. Refuel at Valley, climb out high level, and let down into the NATO low level route at entry point 13, Walney Island. Short sea leg over Morecambe Bay, then over the hills, down into the industrial complex of Yorkshire. South of the Humber to our target, which is a radio relay mast on Elsham Airfield. Heights to fly. On the first leg, 500 feet AGL until you get used to flying low level. Then down to 250 feet for the rest of the route, except for this section here, which we must fly at 2,000 feet AGL. Speeds to fly, 180 knots on all legs, except this one, the last one, we fly at 240 knots. Okay?
Yeah, fine.
So let's prepare our 250,000 map. First thing we must do is cut out roughly the area we require. Next, we carefully cut along the line of the join. Then we align. Now that's fine. We need to stick it now, so if you do that, Jim. Next, we draw in the route lightly. Then we check the low-flying map for prohibited, restricted and danger areas which may affect us on the route. Also, Jim, check the CARF list and NATO handbook to ensure that the map is up to date. Any restrictions near our route we have to transfer to our 250,000. Remember, for real, they could be SAM sites or clusters of radar-laid guns, so start thinking operationally. Highlight all towns. You mustn't fly over them below 2,000 feet in peacetime because of the noise. In wartime, avoid them altogether, because they may well be defended. Mark in all MATS perimeters, here Leeming and Dishforth, and other things like the Lead Bradford SRZ. Next, turning points. They're marked with circles so that you can see everything around them on the map clearly. This is the first turning point. We do the same for each along the route. Now mark in the actual turns onto the new headings. For a JP at 180 knots, the turning radius is 1,000 yards. To draw this in, use the hole in the end of your nav rule. This just happens to be the right size. But don't forget, the turning radius is a variable. An easy way to calculate it is this nomogram, which gives turning radius for all configurations. You must plan and fly the turn accurately, otherwise you're going to find yourself way off track on the next leg.
Yep.
Now we mark entry and exit points on each turn point circle and erase the turning radius we penciled in. Back to the beginning then, and we draw in the route properly. Don't use a thick marker. You will obliterate vital pinpoints. Use a thin felt-tipped pen and don't cover over any useful check features. Okay, Jim, that's our route to the final turn. Now we have to talk about the attack approach before putting in the last leg. Of course, Jim, operationally, we'd plan backwards from the target, selecting the best available pinpoints to give us an accurate run-in. How do you think we would plan a run-in to give us a pull-up for a simulated rocket attack?
Well, there's our rough route. We could go a bit right there down to that railway bend, and then turn left there and straight up that piece of railway.
A good idea, basically. What we really want is a pull-up to one side of target so we can do a 90-degree roll-in and get a really good look at it. Anyway, we'd be a bit close to Scunthorpe out here. How about this, though? That isolated wood stands out particularly well. Be a bloody good pull-up point, I reckon.
Yeah, and we'll pull up so that the sun's behind us.
Good thinking, Jim. Right, let's join the final turn and pull-up point and see if it's a suitable approach. Back here we go across the north end of extensive woods. Further back here there's a railway lead-in from the right. Then there's Scunthorpe. Further back here is a good line-up. This railway along track. Now we're looking for a good IP. Out here to the right there's a 325-foot obstruction. Then go left and there's an escarpment with that strip wood. And in the middle, that lined-up railway. With that line-up, we'll use the Trent River crossing as the IP. Okay, let's mark the run-in. Now mark in hazards. Here's one. 680 feet, the ferry bridge cooling towers. Pylons, masts, chimneys, particularly in bad visibility and haze. Back to the start. Put in a time start reminder sign and then timing marks all along the route to the IP. Here, 3 miles a minute, 180 knots. And 4 miles a minute for the last leg, 240 knots. Okay? At the IP, put in another time start reminder sign. Forget to start your stopwatch here, and you'll probably miss the target. Put in timing marks from here to your pull-up point. Incidentally, operational pilots often use a rule like this to draw in their tracks. It's quicker. This one's notched every 4 miles. You lay the rule along the track, and each notch is a minute mark. So 4 miles a minute, 240 knots. Similarly, you could make a rule for 360 knots or 540 knots. Headings to fly, speeds and safety altitudes, all important information, are now shown in these boxes. The arrow at the top points in the direction to be flown. The true track is measured, 062 degrees, and variation, 8 west, added. And the resulting magnetic track, 070 degrees, is placed at the top of the box. We'll apply wind correction later. Speed, 180 knots. The safety altitude for the first leg is 4,200 feet. The box at the beginning of the third leg teaches us a lesson, Jim. There are many and liberally scattered features and contours hereabouts. They could all be used for position checks, so it's best not to obliterate them. So we put our boxes out here. Next, fuel. At low level, Jim, the engine really gulps it down. So regular fuel checks are very important. But there's already enough to do at turning points. Without the fuel, So make your fuel checks in the middle of each leg. There are 3 checks. The first of these is planned fuel. The second is the minimum fuel to reach the destination at low level. The third is the chicken fuel state. This is the absolute minimum to reach your destination, allowing for an approach and letdown. Normally, the fuel should be well above this. Now, during the sortie, the weather might clamp, there might be an emergency, we might run short of fuel. It's pointless to go back to valley, so you must plan diversions, particularly here, the northern part of the route. Here, towards the end of leg 1, Leeming, a master diversion, is 32 miles on a bearing of 090. In fact, plot several along the route. So that's all the flight information on the chart, except the wind direction, which we'll put on at briefing. So now let's check this one against the master half-million on the wall. .408 plotted, 409, 409's plotted. Airfields in the Vale of York.
The SRZ's there.
There's some excess map here, so let's cut it down. Don't cut it too near to track. Leave yourself some leeway, and also don't cut off the diversions. If you cut it too close to track, the map will become flimsy. At low level, in turbulence, the map will probably be unreadable. Right, having cut it, let's fold it. That's the main line of the route, so we'll fold either side of that. Make sure the folds are really definite and push them down hard to the edge of a nav rule. Then just fold it like this. And there's the whole route in strip map form, ready to use, nice and solid. We've got the trip all marked up now, so we can look at the route in detail to see what it's actually going to look like. We can pick out the pinpoints we're going to use and what the route will look like ahead. Where possible, Jim, it's best to select natural features, water, like this inlet here, woods, there's a distinctive shape, contours. These hills would stand out well. Natural features are not so easily camouflaged. Get the idea, Jim?
Yeah.
Right, nice and easy start. What about the entry?
Well, the point of Walney Island should be clear. And we clip Foulney Point, and we should be right on track.
Good. And remember, seabirds are a hazard too. There's another problem I should mention, fishbowl effect. It's probably been responsible for several accidents. And about to coast in, what do we look for?
Well, it looks pretty flat. We should see that inlet out to the left, and maybe that town Arnside there. But probably better centre on that village, and we should see that lake. Not really determinate features, though.
I'll go with that. Now let's look ahead.
Oh, here we are. This railway, road, river, road complex, that should stand out clearly at 6 minutes. I reckon we fly between the 2 bridges and there.
Good. And just behind here are 2 hills, which should stand out well. You don't need to be married to know what they look like. A good track check, and as we fly towards them, should help us to identify this complex here. So we'll start looking for them about minute 5.
Yeah, and the valley direction goes away up left there.
Yes, fine. Shapes and direction of contours are most important.
Ah, here, this unusual kink in the river at 8 minutes.
Coming up to hills. There may be snow over the hills. Remember, flying over snow can be very dangerous. Tops of hills may be lost in whiteout against the sky. They're killers. This road and stream at 9.5 minutes could well be completely covered. But this road from Sedbergh, probably more heavily used, would stand out clearly like a black ribbon. Something to think about.
And going further on, the shape of the valley here gives us a good lead into the first turn on that bridge. And the railway suddenly emerging from the hill. The railway, in fact, to the turn.
Not a very distinctive turn, this second one, is it?
No, it's not very clear at all, but it's here where that road on the left converges with the one on the right, and the disused railway and the river flow through. In fact, we'll have to look very, very hard for that one.
Now, if you miss the turning point on the ground, turn on planned time. Don't orbit. It uses valuable fuel and alters the planned time for the rest of the route.
And this third turn isn't exactly perfect either. Coming up to 32 and going on. Now that double canal there to the left, that must be unique. And in fact, it's a good time check, about 32:20. Pylons. Then we hit the IP and the stopwatch. Going along the railway, Scunthorpe right. Pylons coming in from the left. Railway coming in from the right. Woods right. There's the station. Railway going out left, coming back again. And then the wood, pull up, wing over, and...
Fine. Any questions?
I'm happy.
Right. It's 10 o'clock now. We're off to Valley in a couple of hours, so we've got plenty of time to look at the route and get to know it in detail. So I'll see you over at the crew room about 11:30. Okay?
Fine, thanks.
Let's see where that first Phantom crew went wrong. Briefing was hurried. 3 targets to plan in only 45 minutes. But that's something that might occur operationally. The less time you have, the more you have to know how. The pre-IP was difficult indeed, a flat feature looking into the sun with only a brief glimpse. They thought they were on this line, but were in fact here. Let's go on to the quarry IP. That was awful too. The quarry they expected to see was here on the planned track. They were in fact flying along this line, and the quarry they saw was there. That made them think they were here, to the left of their track. They turned wide and thought they'd got the railway, but they hadn't. It was a similar one here. Coming to 2 minutes, the nav must have had doubts. They'd fallen back in time, but he wasn't sure why. They were, after all, catching up. And then, as though the gods had smiled, they thought they had the road. But it was an ambiguous feature. They were flying down a wrong but parallel and almost identical road. And just to cap things, 2 lines of pylons crossed the wrong track as well. Don't laugh at them. It was a mistake made by a very experienced combat crew. A piece of old doddle, the nav had said. Low flying isn't doddle. But it's easier if you follow those 3 principles. Remember them?